What's up everyone, my name is Cody Engel, I'm a staff software engineer, and in this video we are going to talk about achieving work-life balance as a software engineer. I have been working professionally in the software industry since 2014. In just 5 years I was able to become a staff software engineer that was leading a team of software engineers, along with working with other staff software engineers to set the technical direction for a billion-dollar company. Getting to that point in my career so quickly required a lot of personal sacrifices, and over the last 2 years I have been focusing more and more on achieving work-life balance. This last week reminded me just how important work-life balance is, as I found myself wrapping up my first major release at PayPal. Overall, it wasn't too bad, but it was still a little bit hectic. I didn't have time to focus on YouTube, and I found myself having to go back to basics to keep myself calm throughout the entire week. Enough about me though, let's get into how you can achieve work-life balance as a software engineer. Be sure to stick around until the end so you don't miss any of the tips. It's impossible to achieve work-life balance if you don't create clear boundaries between your work life and your personal life. 8 hours a day, 5 days a week is more than enough time to be productive as a software engineer. In the past year, I've allowed myself to be a bit more flexible. Some days I'll start at 9:15 and I will end at 4:30. Even though I have a shorter workday, some days I still find that I get the exact same amount of work done that I would have gotten done had I worked that full 8 hours. Each year I also set a goal of taking 1 week off per quarter, and at the end of the year, between Christmas and New Year's, I will take 2 weeks off. While I set these boundaries for myself, there are still things that I will allow to be crossed, given that there is a good reason for them to be crossed. For example, right now I'm in a spot where I cannot really take 1 week off of work. With release last week, I also had to put in more mental energy that bled into my personal life. The important thing about setting boundaries is realizing when they're being crossed, that way you can make up for it. Also, while I missed my vacation goal for the first quarter, I will be making up for that in the second quarter by taking 2 weeks off of work at some point in time. If you don't have clear boundaries, you won't realize when you're making personal sacrifices, and if you aren't realizing that you're making personal sacrifices, that will set you up for burnout in the long run. Unplugging from work outside of your working hours is key to achieving work-life balance. It took an overly aggressive InfoSec policy for me to realize that I didn't actually need work email or Slack on my phone. That means that the only way that I can see my work email or Slack messages from coworkers is if I'm sitting in front of my work laptop with Slack or my email client open. At first, this was uncomfortable. I experienced FOMO my first week without having easy access to Slack messages on my phone. Then I realized no one really messaged me after hours. Whenever someone did message me after hours, it was always something that I could respond to that very next morning. My manager also has my cell phone number, so if for some reason something does go wrong, he can always call or text me and I can get on my work laptop pretty quickly. In my first 9 months at PayPal though, I can say that there hasn't been a single occurrence where I had to work outside of my normal hours. After experiencing this newfound freedom, I don't know how I will ever go back to having easy access to Slack or work email on my phone. Honestly, I will probably never log into either account ever again. So my recommendation to you is, if you are still logged into Slack or your work email on your personal device, log out, see what happens. Most likely, you will realize that you aren't needed outside of work and you will have a much easier time unplugging after work. It's important to realize that there are only so many hours in a given week. Done is better than perfect, especially as a software engineer. The sooner that you embrace this, the sooner you'll be able to achieve work-life balance. It is surprisingly easy to go down the rabbit hole that is perfectionism. When it comes to programming, you can always do something better. It's rare for me to go back to code that I worked on several months ago and think to myself, wow, this code is perfect. There is absolutely nothing I can do to make it better. No. Future Cody is always like, this code sucks. What was past Cody thinking? I can do this way better. We're just gonna scrap it all and we're gonna do it way better. But then of course timelines get in the way. I'm like, all right, it's good enough, whatever. Done is better than perfect, yada, yada, yada. Joking aside though, the reason that this is because as software engineers, we're always learning new and better ways of doing things. This is why I consider something done when I'm mostly happy with that work. Doing this allows me to better manage my time, and by better managing my time, I rarely find myself in a time crunch. When it comes to your own work, you are the only person that can tell the difference between what was good enough and what was perfect. Learning to delegate work is kind of similar to realizing that done is better than perfect. Being able to properly delegate work requires you to have trust with your coworkers. You also have to accept that while the work will be done, it will most likely be done in a way that is different from the way that you would have personally solved that same problem. I've seen other software engineers fall into the trap of overanalyzing pull requests and trying to find every little thing that's wrong with the code that they are reviewing. Heck, I used to be this person. As soon as I prioritized the feature working as opposed to the code being perfect, perfect, suddenly I found myself being able to review more code in less time. Also, to my surprise, when I switched to this mindset, I found that the number of bugs didn't really go up or down in any meaningful way. How you approach code reviews are just one example of delegation. Learning how to delegate work will free up the valuable time that you have during the workday. Because you'll be able to get more work done during the workday, you'll also feel less pressured to work outside of your normal hours. We are taught that we should follow our dreams and do what we love. This sets us up to live to work instead of working to live. I used to expect my job to give me a sense of personal satisfaction and a sense of pride. This oftentimes led to some unhealthy expectations from my employer. At the end of the day though, a job is a job. Whatever company you choose to work for, that company has agreed to pay you for your time and expertise to complete a specific task that is important for the company. Don't overcomplicate things by expecting that your job will give you some immense sense of satisfaction. If it does, that's great, but you shouldn't feel stressed or upset if you're working at a job that you're not totally satisfied with, but is still able to pay the bills and you're able to live the life that you wanted to live. What I do today is I look for things that can give me satisfaction outside of work. Making YouTube videos and seeing how many people smash the like button for the YouTube algorithm each and every week brings me far more satisfaction than any job ever could. I've also started to play more video games over the last couple of years. In the past, I would feel guilty thinking about all the other things that I could be doing besides playing video games. However, one thing that I realized is playing video games brings me a lot of satisfaction, it brings me a lot of joy. It also allows me to recharge after a busy day of work. If video games or YouTube aren't your thing, you can get into things like home brewing, gardening, you can become a triathlete, you can do photography. You can do a lot of different things. Just find a hobby that brings you a lot of joy and do that outside of work as much as you can. It can be easy to get sucked into activities or people that latch onto your time like leeches. Taking time to understand what is important to you can help you identify what people and activities you should be spending your time on and which ones you should be avoiding. In the past, I would try to make myself available to everyone at work and be available to help with any sort of project that was going on. I would put in extra time to help coworkers get their work done, even if it meant that I would fall behind on my own projects. Over time, I realized that there are some people where this extra effort is worth it because they are eager to learn, or they will return the favor in the future when I need help with my own work. Then there are some people who are the exact opposite. You find yourself spending all of this time and energy trying to help them out, they're not learning anything. Whenever you need help with your own work, they're nowhere to be found to help you out. When I encounter this kind of person, I really try to limit the amount of time and energy that I devote to them. In terms of which activities or projects you should be focusing on, you should start off by looking at what are your goals that you want to achieve and looking at which projects will actually help you achieve those goals. I want to be financially independent in the next 3 years, and in order for me to do that, I need to earn income outside of a traditional 9-to-5. I've been putting more time into YouTube and even started to learn modern web development because I know that those two things will help me achieve that goal. If you want to achieve work-life balance, it's really important for you to limit those leeches. Ultimately, achieving work-life balance comes down to time management. There are only 24 hours in the day, and you should be asleep for 8 of those. Shout out to the book Why We Sleep, not a sponsor. Also, not related to this video, it's just a good book. I recommend that everyone reads it. I'll leave a link to it in the description down below. Drawing clear boundaries between your personal and professional life will help to ensure that you have at least 8 hours a day to focus on what you love. In turn, that will make the other 8 hours a day spent at a desk easier and probably more enjoyable. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to subscribe and click the notification bell so you can be notified anytime I upload another video like this one. We also have a growing Discord community that is free to join. I will leave a link to that in the description down below. That's it. That's the video. Thank you so much for watching, and I will catch you in the next one.